Dear listeners, today, we bring a story of a husband who cheated on by his wife and how he absolutely demolishes her reputation in front of the entire town. Hey, everyone. Mark wanted to share a bit about my relationship with my wife, Linda. We've always been very open, maybe even too open, about our past and previous partners. She's my second wife. My first marriage ended due to infidelity. Interestingly, my ex and I share a son, and my current wife has a daughter from her previous marriage. Despite the complications, our blended family has been working well for the past 5 years. As I mentioned, we're perhaps a bit too open about our past relationships. My wife's first husband was a serial cheater, a musician who had affairs with women from his gigs. When she found out about his multiple infidelities, she reached out to an old friend, Chris, for advice. They had been writing partners for 7 years. And when she needed support, Chris was there for her. Long story short, her first marriage ended, and she and Chris decided to revisit writing their book together. Although they lived on opposite sides of the country, they began to dating and eventually got physical. Eventually, Chris moved to be with her. However, things took a turn when her daughter, who was only 5 at the time, struggled to adjust to the new relationship dynamic. She did not like her father being replaced by someone else. My wife and Chris decided to take a break, but it ended up being more permanent than expected. Hurt by the rejection, Chris cut ties completely. After some time apart, they reconnected to finish their book, but she had started dating me. They stopped their physical involvement, and she began to prioritize our relationship over her connection with Chris. It got a bit complicated as she stopped returning his emails and working on the book. Chris grew frustrated, blocked her on everything, and they lost contact again. That's a brief overview of our journey. And while it has its complexities, I believe what matters most is how we navigate our current relationship with honesty and understanding. It has come to my attention that Chris, an old friend of my wife, recently reached out to her after several years of no contact. He shared that he had contracted COVID and almost lost his life. In their conversation, he mentioned a creative project they had worked on together in the past, a book that he has now turned into a comic adaptation. My wife appears genuinely excited about this collaboration to discussing characters, backstories, and various aspects of the project. I recognize the importance of creative outlets, and I want to be supportive of her passions. However, given their history where collaborative efforts in the past have led to more than just creative work, I find myself concerned. I understand the significance of this project to her, but I've observed that every time they've collaborated, it has led to complications. Upon reviewing their recent conversation, I noted my wife inquiring about Chris's personal life. She's suggesting he should start dating again. While I don't want to come across as controlling, I can't ignore the history between them and the potential for complications. When Chris messaged my wife, she immediately came to me and I got to read the entire message. There wasn't any hint of him trying to be inappropriate. In fact, he apologized for ghosting her years ago and explained that he finished 2 books in their trilogy, almost dying from COVID, and wanted the story to go to her if anything happened to him. He acknowledged that 50% of it should rightfully be hers. He included a bunch of anime commissioned art of their characters and asked if she'd be interested in helping him write the graphic novel adaptation. My wife won't proceed without my approval, and considering they are a country apart, I'm feeling less concerned about anything inappropriate happening. I believe their collaboration is centered around the creative project. And with clear boundaries in place, it seems like a reasonable opportunity for her to explore her passion. So I let her start her project. A few days later, I discovered that my wife has been deceiving me in a way that I never imagined. The level of deception is so intricate that it's hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that I've spent the last 6 years of my life with this person. I decided to sit down with her and have an open conversation about how I felt regarding the situation. I expressed that I was happy she rediscovered her old writing and encouraged her to explore it as a hobby or even a profession because she's genuinely good at it and seems to enjoy it. During that conversation, she agreed, and she even mentioned that having her ex, Chris, around wouldn't be a good thing. She said she was worried he might be using the creative project as an excuse to reconnect. Feeling somewhat reassured, I thought we were on the same page. But then things started feeling off and red flags began popping up in my mind. Yesterday morning, when she was in the shower, I couldn't shake the strange feeling, so I checked her phone. I found that her entire conversation with Chris had been deleted. That was a major red flag. Digging deeper, I discovered that they were discussing her upcoming work trip to Vegas, which she had told me about. However, according to their messages, the trip had been cancelled due to COVID. Yet, they were planning to stay in a hotel at Townover, talking about restaurants and even discussing the moon on the beach. What's worse, he's not on the East Coast. As he claimed, he moved back to town recently. A month ago, she told me she had to pick up her brother from the airport, but the messages revealed it was actually him. The messages don't go back much further, but they reference discussions during the years. They supposedly hadn't been in contact. There's a line he wrote that's making my blood boil, claiming they're just friends. But the message implies something entirely different. It's devastating to find out that she's not just planning to be with him. She's already been involved for months. The trip to her mother's a few weeks back where she stayed the night now takes on a completely different meaning. Seeing my wife smile now fills me with the level of anger and resentment I never thought possible. I had initially planned to hold off on confronting her until after Christmas because I didn't want the holiday to be overshadowed by this painful situation, especially for the kids. But honestly, the weight of everything is making it increasingly difficult to hold back. I'm teetering on the edge, and the urge to confront her today or tomorrow is almost overpowering. It's a struggle to keep swallowing this hurt and frustration with a smile. I know the kids deserve a happy holiday, and I want to preserve that for them. Still, my ability to endure this deception is wearing thin. I've been talking with my brother for support. The situation has led me to keep an eye on their communications. She noticed that I've been acting differently, and I told her it was just me feeling down about the anniversary of my aunt's death. I didn't want her to catch on to the fact that I know about everything. Today, I spent 3 hours in my car outside of McDonald's using their wife to access her emails. I know the passwords as I set them up on her laptop. Turns out, they're using Yahoo Messenger to communicate. I found some pictures of her, some really cute ones. There's a particular one with her posing with flowers. I got her for her birthday. Their communication has been ongoing since March, and I've come across some unsettling quotes from her. I can't just start talking about the book all the time. I talked about you twice when he and I got together. If I started talking about you in the book a lot now, he's going to think something is up. You need to shave because that stubble is like knives. Almost had to put chapstick on my chin and under my nose. You're getting it right before you leave here. I want him to kiss you after you spent the afternoon swallowing me. Hearing that, I just want to destroy them both. I want to wear his teeth as a necklace. It's become clear to me that her relationship story might be full of deception, and my gut feeling is telling me she might be the one who cheated. I've been piecing things together, and it seems their relationship didn't work out because he didn't want to step into a parental role for her child. Now I'm feeling strung along and it's disheartening. Regarding her daughter, there's a mean streak that her ex mentioned, and it's something I'm familiar with dealing with my own child. But according to him, he won't take her on full time because he won't let a 6-year-old 5-year-old dictate his day. I don't want her full-time either. As for her ex-boyfriend, her daughter's biological father, I'm considering reaching out to him. I'm skeptical about the narrative she's painted about him and whether she demonized him to look good. I've heard from him directly that their fight was about him jokingly mentioning cheating, and I'm not convinced he's the cheater she made him out to be. I'm contemplating confronting her when they first arrived at the hotel. I plan to let her go, then send a mass text to her family and change her social media passwords just enough to prevent immediate damage control. After that, I'll find out her room and have her served with divorce papers. All that is going in loops in my mind. As for the timing, whether to do it before or after Christmas, it's a tough call. My kids deserve a happy holiday even if it means breaking my teeth with a forced smile. So I plan the Christmas party my way. Hired a private investigator and a lawyer. The pie quickly started following my wife around. Pictures, videos, and her geolocations, everything was being recorded. My lawyer was preparing the groundwork for divorce. Went to my soon-to-be ex-wife's ex-husband, Jacob. He was reluctant to meet me, but eventually met me at his home. I discussed the situation in details. He laughed and went to his room. He came back with a small box. He opened it and handed me a thumb drive. He said, "Everything you need against your wife is here." He offered to be at the court if he is needed. I asked why did he not use all this in his divorce case. He stated that he has a home and his money safe because he blackmailed his wife for a divorce settlement out of court. I went home and checked the drive. It became clear that my wife was the serial cheater. The drive had call recordings between her and Chris, planning how they will take everything from Jacob. Her very explicit pictures with Chris in bed. Some videos where they were in the act. One knew what I wanted to do with that. I would no longer be satisfied with just a mail to all family members. I wanted to go nuclear. So Christmas came in and I somehow managed to go through it with a fake smile. So, Chris and my wife managed to finish their comic and my soon-to-be ex-wife gave me a digital copy. She told me that they plan to have a grand launch. I contacted the comic publisher Dusty. He happens to be a friend from college. I met him and explained the entire situation to him. He heard me and stated that once I file for divorce, the entire matter will be big PR disaster, and he will end up losing a lot of money. I had a long discussion with him and explained what I wanted him to help me with. I handed him an envelope and we parted our ways. So the day was set and I waited. D-Day, the plan for the launch was that an envelope will come down from the ceiling and Linda will open it and reveal the comic. Most of the town's who's who were attending, including Linda's family, Chris, and his family. I excluded my kids from this and told Linda that it will be difficult to cater to kids at such an occasion. So everything was in place. The guests were in. Including a special guest, I invited Dusty was not there and only one person from his team was at the venue. People were in. The auditorium was packed. It's a small town, so everyone was here. The event started. 2 local reporters asked questions to the 2 creators, Linda and Chris. They smiled and answered. By now I was in the front row. One seat was empty beside me. Soon, my guest Jacob arrived. In the moment he came and sat beside me. Linda went pale. I then asked Linda to come in the center to launch the comic. The envelope came down and Linda opened it. To her horror, it was her divorce papers. Linda lost her color and just walked walked back to her seat without showing it to the people. However, I had planned for that. I had a video compilation made especially for this event. It was called Behind the Pages, a tribute to her comics. It played all of Linda's voice recordings, her explicit videos with Chris. Some parts were blurred for the faint-hearted ones. Then it rained. I rained the divorce papers all over Linda. The auditorium was empty within a few minutes. No one had anything to do with the two cheaters. Linda's father walked to me and told me he is sorry and his daughter just died. Chris's family was nowhere to be found. Linda rushed back home to find her stuff packed and waiting outside the door. I did not bother where she went that day. The court date arrived, and I was reprimanded by the judge for the elaborate act that I pulled at the auditorium, explaining that it was no way to handle such situations. I kept my head down, but deep down, I was proud of what I did. Linda and her lawyer tried to put a lot of false allegations on me, and my lawyer squashed all of them. We demanded the custody of all the kids as the mother did not represent a character that a child can look up to. My lawyer presented all the evidences collected by the Pa and Jacob. Seeing Jacob, Linda went to Karen level 33 and went Super Saiyan on him. She screamed and said that he violated the agreement between them by sharing the evidence in this court. The judge dismissed her plea and asked her to sit down. He stated that the woman does not represent a wise and moral person. The custody was given to me. Divorce granted. I am now supposed to get child support money and my freedom. Linda tried to sue Dusty for trying to sabotage her career. The case went to court and Dusty stated that they had sent a mail to Linda 2 days prior to the event informing that they were moving out of the project. Linda claimed that she never got the mail. I had deleted that mail. I am not ashamed of it. Dusty then presented the mail copy and also stated that there was no official from his company at the venue. Linda claimed that the event was organized by the publisher. Dusty then explained that it was paid for by Linda's ex-husband, Mark. The case was dismissed. Linda must be cursing the day she asked me to set up her laptop. I now live with my 2 kids and life is good. I am dating a local reporter who happens to be single. Although I am dating, I am reluctant to get married. This time, though, I have a PI at my disposal. Dear listener, if you have reached this far, please click on the subscribe button. It will be a great help.